Alrighty guys, so we are here for our next unit. This is Unit 7. I created a new folder on Schoology. You'll see there's a homework sheet which lists all the assignments. You'll also see a PDF of all the worksheets 7.1 through 7.5 that I'm going to be using throughout this unit for the lessons. And then there's the homework answer key, okay? And then each day I'll be posting the assignment to that folder, okay? Now, conic sections you'll learn more about next lesson, okay? However, we're going to review the conic section you actually are familiar with, which is a circle, okay? So, one of the skills you need for circles is completing the square. So I'm going to go through two quick examples. If you don't remember it, I posted a link to a Khan Academy video that you can watch. But you are definitely going to need to remember how to complete the square, okay? So we use completing the square when we're talking about a trinomial, okay? So, or I should say when we're creating a trinomial, what we're always going to do, the pattern is you take half the b value and square it to get what would be the c value, and then that becomes a perfect square trinomial. So here, negative, make sure you take the sign, negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. Then we square that, and that's 81. That becomes your c value. So then your perfect square trinomial is that, okay? Which, what you're going to see is the advantage to that is I can now write this as a binomial squared, okay? It's going to be x minus 9, because that's a quantity I squared to get this, and negative 9 plus negative 9 gives me negative 18. So x minus 9 times x minus 9, where that quantity squared is that trinomial, okay? Now, we can also use this to solve equations, okay? Now, you can't use completing the square, and this is super important, if there's a leading coefficient. So I'm going to factor that out. But before I do that, okay, what you want to do is move the c value over, because you're going to put a c value that works for you in this equation, okay, kind of like we did up here. So let's move that guy out. And we'll have equals negative 8. Then I'm going to factor the 2 out. You can also divide through by 2, but what you're going to see as we move forward is you're not going to be able to do that. So I would like you to know how to factor out the leading coefficient. All right, I think it's going to be more useful. So now we're going to figure out the c value that would complete the square inside these parentheses. So I usually put like a box there, right? Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So half of 8, okay, is 4 squared. So that means I'm going to add, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, it's going to be 16. But the catch here that you have to remember is this is 2 times 16. So over here, you're going to have to add a positive 32, okay? So that means this quantity will factor to x plus 4 squared. You'll have the 2 equals, and then you'll have, I believe, a 24 over here, okay? Then we want to solve this. This is in, if you remember vertex form, you're going to divide through by 2 and use square roots. So x plus 4 quantity squared equals 12. Then square root, square root. So then x plus 4 equals plus or minus, and then you simplify that. That's 2 rad 3. Subtract 4. So it's negative 4 plus or minus 2 rad 3, okay? So that's how you can use completing the square to solve equations, okay? We are going to focus more on this skill where you're just completing the square within an equation, not solving, all right? Now, reviewing how to graph a circle, what you have to remember is what is the definition of a circle, okay? The definition of a circle is all points equidistant from a given point, which is the center of the circle. Okay. Now, what you will see is this is what we call their center radius, or the standard form for the equation of a circle, okay? So center radius sometimes called standard form. then that is, if you remember, I should move that too far over, this x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, okay? Where h and k are your center, okay? And the equidistantness is measured by your radius, right? So r is radius, okay? Now, if you remember, you graphed these last year, okay? Whenever you have it in center radius form, this is a subtraction sign within here, which means this was actually a negative to begin with. So your center is actually negative 3, comma 2, okay? Because again, the subtraction is part of the formula. And then your radius is the square root of 16, which is 4, okay? If it turns out that that's not a perfect number, you just estimate it, all right, in order to graph it. So then, since a circle, right, the definition is equidistant from a given point, which is a center, we would go to negative 3, 2, and then you just have to graph 4 points from there, the easiest ones. So you're gonna go to the right 4, up 4, to the left 4, and then down 4. And then that is your circle, okay? Not my best circle, but it works, okay? Same idea here. I'm not gonna do that one. You guys have seen this before, okay? But that's graphing a circle in center radius or standard form. Now, unfortunately, not everything is always like that, okay? So, we're gonna get into what do we do if it doesn't look like that. But if you take a look here, I also can ask you for the x and y intercepts. So if you remember, we've done this before, the equation just looks a little funkier, okay, because it's a circle. To find the x-intercept, you're gonna make y equal to 0. To find the y-intercept, you're gonna make x equal to 0, okay? And the numbers might not be pretty, and that's okay, all right? So for the x-intercept, let me make sure you can see this, okay? That's when y equals 0. So I'm gonna have x plus 3 quantity squared plus, this becomes 0, so it's just negative 2 squared equals 16. So then I have x plus 3 quantity squared, should say plus 4 equals 16, okay? So then I subtract 4, I get x plus 3 equals 12, I square root both sides, so then I get x plus 3 equals plus or minus, right? 2 rad 3. So if I subtract 3, it's x equals negative 3, okay? Plus or minus 2 rad 3. So if you put that, now you can't really graph something like negative 3 plus or minus 2 rad 3. That's the exact coordinates, but if you wanted to estimate it, you would just do negative 3 plus 2 rad 3. So this would be about, what, 0.46, comma 0 would be 1, and then negative 3 minus 2 rad 3. Okay, and then we get negative 6.46, comma 0. That's our other x-intercept. Then for our y-intercept, we're going to do exactly the opposite. So for y-intercept, x equals 0. So it's just going to be 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. That's 9, right? So if I subtract 9 from both sides, y minus 2 squared equals 7, square root, y minus 2 equals, don't forget the plus or minus, so then y equals 2 plus or minus rad 7, which is going to give me 2 plus square root of 7, oops, just kidding, 2 plus square root of 7, and I get 4, so this is 0, comma, 4.65-ish, okay? You're just gonna sketch this. And then we have 2 minus, so minus that, and so I have 0, comma, negative 0.65, okay? If I round it, so then if I take a look here, that's my X and Y intercepts. Again, they're not gonna be pretty, okay, and that's all right, but they should make sense with your sketch. So if you take a look at this guy, I know, right, and we kind of just did this one, my center, right, is -3, 2, just be careful, that's the X and the Y, put it in the correct order, and then my radius is 4. So if I graph this, -3, up 2, and then I graph 1, 2, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then I do my best to make this a nice circle. If you take a look, do these make sense? Well, is an x-intercept a little bit more than 0 there? Yes. Is it somewhere between -5 and -6? Yeah. Okay, it's just a sketch. So that makes sense for those two. So this would be like point A, intercept A, B. Okay, and then if I look here, my y-intercept, right, is a little bit below. It tends to be like somewhere there. That's point A again. And then my other y-intercept, well, that was like, what, 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a little more. Again, that's a sketch. So that's about point C, isn't it? So my x and y-intercepts make sense with the graph that I would sketch using my center and radius, okay? Now, so that's center radius or standard form. This is general form, okay? So you can see there's no sets of parentheses here. Okay, and we just want to change this into that. So basically, all you're going to do is a whole lot of FOIL. It's not hard, it's just a little tedious. We just need to be able to transform these guys. And it's always equal to 0. Okay, in general form, all right? And we're going to see this again in our other convex sections. So what's this? X squared plus 6x plus 9 plus y squared minus 4y plus 4. Then I'm going to subtract the 16, bring that over to get it equal to 0, and then I just combine like terms. Notice the squared terms come first, so what's this? X squared plus y squared, and then plus 6x plus, just kidding, minus 4y. And then what do I have? Constants of 9, 4, which is 13, so I believe this is a -3 equals 0. That is your general form, okay? You can still see it has an x squared and a y squared, which it should. Here it's just in factored form, okay? And that gives you your circle, and then that's all we need to do, okay? No graphing, no nothing like that. If you take a look, I'll be honest with you, it's not a very useful form because you don't really have much information there, right? No center, no radius, but it's important to be able to go back and forth, okay? Now, this guy, if I ask you to graph it, you can't really graph it, like I mentioned up here. So what you want to do is complete the square for the x's and the y's at the same time, and then we can do that. So I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to group together the x squared and the 4x and complete the square for that, and then y squared minus 4y, complete the square for that, and then I have 1 here. And then I got, and then this. So you're going to add 2 boxes here because you're completing the square. Not once because it's so fun, but twice. So if I take half of this guy, right, and square it, that'll be 2 squared, which is 4. So I'm going to add a 4 here and a 4 there. Okay. Then this is -4. Quantity squared, which is -2 squared, which again gives me a 4. I'm going to add 4 again. Okay, so now I have a perfect square trinomial for the x's and for the y's. So this is x plus 2 squared, because I squared a +2 to get that 4, plus, and then this is y minus 2 because I subtracted, I squared a -2 there. And then over here I'm left with a 9, okay? Now, if you look, because I transformed the equation, I can find the center and the radius, right? The center would be -2, 2, and the radius would be the square root of 9, which is 3, okay? So you have to complete the square to get that equation, all right? And then you could graph it, all right? We would just have -2, 2, and then we go over 3, up 3, over 3, and down 3. There's our circle. Boom. Wonderful. Okay? All right, last page here. Now, if you take a look at this guy, right, we want to find the center and radius again, okay? So we're going to complete the square, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group my x's together, all right, and complete the square for that. Then I have 2y squared plus 4y, group those together. And then I'm going to bring the 9 over like I did before. Okay? Then I'm going to complete the square not once, but twice. So I'm going to have to add 2 quantities to each side. Okay? So now, if you take a look, I got to take a 2 out of this. So it's x squared plus 4x plus some quantity plus 2y squared plus 2y plus equals -9, and then I got these guys. Okay, now this would be what? 4 over 2 squared equals 2 squared, so then I'd have to put a 4 here, but remember there's a 2 in front of here, so 2 times 4 means to balance this equation I have to add 8. Then over here it's 2 divided by 2, which is 1 squared, which is just 1, so I'm going to add 1. But remember, 2 times this quantity, so to balance it, I have to add a 2 to that side, all right? So now I get 2x plus 2 squared plus 2, and then y plus 1, right, because that's what I squared to complete that square, equals, and then what does this whole shebang give me? 8, 9, 10. But then I have a -9, so that's 1, okay? So now, if you take a look, what am I going to do here? Well, if I look, I can't really, this isn't the standard form or the center radius form. I have to divide through by 2, which again, you could have done at the beginning, okay? But as we move forward, you'll see we won't be able to see that, okay? So I'm going to divide through by 2. So then this is x plus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 1 quantity squared equals 1/2, okay? So now I didn't really ask you to graph it. I'm not really sure why the graph is there, but our center, right, is going to be -2, -1. And our radius is going to be the square root of 1/2, which is 1 over rad 2, which is rad 2 over 2, which if you were graphing, you'd just find the decimal of that, which is about, I believe, 0.7-ish. Okay, and you would just sketch it like that. It's a very small circle, small radius, but that's what it would look like. All right? Now, the last thing, you did this last year, okay? I give you the coordinates of the center, right? And then I give you a point on the circle, and you need to find the radius of the circle. So if you envision this, it kind of looks like this, right? So if I sketch it, which we're going to be doing a bunch of that, so it's what, -1, -4? This is my center, right? And then my point is 2, and then -6. So it's like somewhere here-ish, let's just say. So I got a circle that kind of goes around like this, and that's my center. So this is my radius, right? So in order to do this one, what you have to do, okay, is there's a couple different ways. The easiest way, I think, is you need to find the distance between these two. So distance formula, if you remember, is x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared, right, to get the distance, which is the radius really, okay, in this case. So then my distance here is, I'm going to take, doesn't matter which one you take first, okay, so -1 minus 2, so find the difference of your x's, plus the difference of your y's, so that's -4 minus a -6 squared. So distance equals, so what's that? -3 squared plus, so what's that, 2 squared? So this should be 9 plus 4. So your distance is the square root of 13, right? So that's your radius really, okay? Because it's the distance between the center and the point on the circle. And that's all they wanted to. Now, an additional question they could ask you is write the formula, the equation. So just so you know, to write the equation, all you have to do, right, is do x plus 1 squared, because that's my x coordinate in the center, plus y plus 4 squared equals, and then remember, it's always equal to radius squared. Your distance is your radius. So if I take the square root of 13 squared, well, that's just 13. That's the formula, okay? I know I only asked you for radius, but I could also ask you for that, okay? So that's a quick review, all right, of circles and completing the square. So try the homework. Feel free to email me, all right? And please, use the homework sheet to keep you, on track so you know what's going on, and then the answer keys, all right? Hope you guys are doing well.